Quay, hello everyone. I just wanted to come on and talk a little bit more as we're coming to the end of our time together. I really enjoyed being able to pre-record these videos for you, and I hope you've enjoyed a lot of the activities that were presented. If you do have any questions or want to follow up on anything or need support with any of your writing pieces or any tips and tricks, feel free to email me at mel@canadianroots.ca. But what I wanted to come on and talk a little bit about, I mentioned, I believe, at the intro video and sort of towards the beginner weeks that I was able to put a collection of my poems together in self-published books. And so I wanted to show you the examples that I created. I had originally started this on a website called createspace.com. They are no longer running. It is now turned to Kindle Direct Publishing, and it is run through Amazon. So the first book that I did was when I was younger, and so the cover page sort of reflects that. But this was the first book. It's called Concrete Mirror Reflection. And then the second book that I just recently released, probably about 2 years ago, is Concrete Mirror Redirection. And so my first one, it's a lot thicker than the rest because, like I had said, I believe at the beginning, was that ideally I was just putting a bunch of my poems together for my family and my friends, and then when people in the community who knew me and people who wanted to support me found out that I had put together a book, they wanted to support and purchase the book. So I wasn't actually intending on doing more at the time, but then I kept writing and continued collecting poems over the years, and so eventually I came out with Redirection. So Reflection, the first one, is around my stories and other things that I had experienced, as well as people around me. And so I had mentioned that writing for me was my primary coping mechanism. It was also a way for me to release emotions and stories that were not mine, that were not meant for me to carry. I was able to release that in my writing. And so for Reflection, it was about that time in my life where I did have to do a lot of reflecting and really exploring who I was as a youth. Even prior to that in adolescence, so as a preteen, as a youth myself, and then moving into a young adulthood. And then Redirection is sort of my process after high school, going into university, experiencing university life for the first time on my own. None of my friends went to the same university as me. I sort of had to feel like I had to build a community on my own. University was also, unfortunately, and fortunately, depending on how you look at it, where I started reconnecting with my culture. And so there's some of that in this book of Redirection, the second book, but there's more love and hurt and pain and emotions and all that stuff that is also represented in that book as well. And I will be releasing a third book when I get a chance to really sit down and reformat it. And that is specifically around my journey in reclaiming my Mi'kmaq lineage and reclaiming the teachings and really integrating back into a society that my family was withdrawn from for so long due to colonization and other things. And so that one is really focusing on my reclamation journey. So yeah, it's a journey and it takes time, and you need to sort of allot some time to actually write and then format and put things together. But this was something that I just wanted to show and say that it is possible. And even if you didn't want to do it sort of this way, you could go to like a print shop and you can coil them together, and that would probably be cheaper than doing it this way. But yeah, so if you have any other questions about this process, or even just really like sticking to writing, I know with obviously having to switch everything online, it changes the dynamic of things. It's quite different not being able to sit in person with folks, but we can do things like this that help connect each other together. And there are a multitude of writing circles that folks can access online now, which is amazing. But yeah, I think sometimes like keeping the motivation can be challenging, and having a circle of people that are like-minded and also writers and understand writer's block and understand the block and creative process can be helpful on your journey. And so, yeah, I hope you liked the activities. I hope that you participated in them. If you want to post them on social media, you can put hashtag CRE creative writing or hashtag CRE planting the seed, as you notice that that's the name that the first cycle has been taking on. And if you would like to participate in cycle 2, I would love to be able to connect with your facilitator to make that happen, whether it's on Zoom or in another format. So, miigwech, walalan, Nyawa, and thank you again for allowing me to be in your space in this way and take up some of your time. And so I wish you all the best. So one of the things that I'd also like to mention, if you would like to continue writing and sort of exercising that part of your brain and really keeping with the motivation, if you Google or even use Pinterest, I have a board that's just all about creative writing prompts. Type in exactly that phrase, creative writing prompts, or you can even add a theme to it. So you can put romance, creative writing prompts, horror, and there'll be a bunch of things that come up. I know a lot of people, there's a lot around like aliens and like dystopian fiction, but some of them are really cool. And one of the few of the ones that I've done and sort of tried to indigenize them, like one of them was around like someone stole my ice cream truck. What are the kids going to do without ice cream? And I sort of flipped it to, someone stole my canoe. What am I to do? And then you have to respond to that phrase. And so either using the phrase or using the theme of the phrase, and create a poem, a story, do a reflection piece, like any sort of genre that you want to use. But Google and Pinterest are sort of the two primary, but if you can, you just continue and you can find a bunch of things online. And if you don't have access to online, if you have books at home, or if you have, even ask your family or your friends and just tell them to give you a random word or just to say a random phrase and write based off of what they say. Sometimes I'll ask, my friends will be like, hey, I know this is random, but give me a word, first word that comes to mind. One time it was bananas, and I wrote about my mom and her banana bread. Another time it was wood, and so I wrote a poem about my grandfather's wood shop. Another time it was spaghetti, and I had actually made spaghetti that night, so it was kind of funny. So I kind of like wrote like a list poem where I just wrote the top 10 things that came to mind. And the thing about list poems is you can do 5 things, you can do 10 things, but you can do so many different things with that. So you can write a list, and then you can write individual poems based off of everything that you've written on that list. Or you can challenge yourself and write a poem or write a paragraph with everything on that list. And so creativity is endless. You can talk about a color, you can talk about an animal, you can talk about a light. And so even like there's an art piece behind me that was done by Jay Suley, and it's sort of a twist on Phantom of the Opera, so it's Phantom of the Powwow. And then the story phrase underneath is called, it's a story of revenge from beyond. And so doing a twist and indigenizing modern stories that are already out there. And so just to give you an example of the image behind me so you can see it. And so this is sort of the spin on Phantom of the Opera. And so things like that, so taking things and make them your own, even the topics, make them your own. And so, again, I hope you enjoy.